What if everything you've been told about carbs is wrong? What if the bread you've been avoiding, the rice you gave up, the potatoes you eliminated from your life? What if they were never actually the problem? What if you could eat them again? Enjoy them fully without sending your blood sugar into a dangerous spiral? Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about food, diabetes, and control. This isn't about restriction. This isn't about willpower. This is about understanding a biological secret that's been hiding in plain sight. And once you learn it, you'll never look at carbohydrates the same way again. Before we start, important disclaimer. This video has been thoroughly researched using peer-reviewed studies and authentic patient experiences, but it should never replace personalized medical advice from your healthcare provider. Always consult with your medical team before making significant changes to your diet or diabetes management. Now, let's break some rules and discover how to eat the foods you love without paying the metabolic price. Potatoes, bread, and rice. These three foods have been demonized for decades, especially for people with diabetes or prediabetes. You've heard it 1,000 times. Avoid them, cut them out. They're dangerous. They'll spike your blood sugar. They'll make your diabetes worse. But here's the uncomfortable truth. These foods are woven into almost every culture on Earth. Rice feeds more than half the world's population daily. Bread has been a staple of human civilization for 10,000 years. Potatoes saved millions from starvation in Europe. So telling people to quit them forever is like telling them to stop breathing. It's not realistic. It's not sustainable. And honestly, based on what the science actually shows, it's not even necessary, because the problem isn't the food itself. The problem is how we've been eating it. And once you understand the biological mechanisms at play, you can manipulate them to your advantage. You can enjoy carbohydrates without the glucose roller coaster, without the crashes, without the guilt. Let me introduce you to something that's going to change everything. Resistant starch. This is the secret hiding in your refrigerator right now, and most people have no idea it exists. Here's how starch works typically. You eat bread, rice, or potatoes, and your digestive enzymes immediately break down those starch molecules into glucose. The glucose rushes into your bloodstream. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas desperately pumps out insulin to cope. If you have diabetes or prediabetes, your cells don't respond appropriately to that insulin, so the glucose stays elevated, damaging blood vessels, nerves, and organs. Fast digestion equals fast spikes, and those spikes chip away at your health over time. But resistant starch flips this entire script. Resistant starch is starch that resists digestion. Your enzymes can't break it down easily. So instead of rushing into your bloodstream, it glides past your small intestine, virtually untouched. Then something fascinating happens. That resistant starch reaches your colon, where your gut bacteria go absolutely wild with it. They ferment it, producing short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate. And these short-chain fatty acids do remarkable things. They improve insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells respond more effectively to insulin. They lower inflammation throughout your body. They nourish the cells lining your colon, protecting against colorectal diseases. They even signal to your liver to release less glucose. Pretty incredible for something you can create accidentally. How do you produce resistant starch? Here's the beautiful part. You don't need a supplement, a special product, or an expensive superfood. You just need time and a refrigerator. Cook your starchy foods usually, then cool them completely in the fridge for at least 24 hours. When you're ready to eat, reheat them. That's it. During cooling, a process called retrogradation occurs. The starch molecules, specifically the amylose and the long branch chains of amylopectin, form double helices and crystallize into structures that are resistant to digestive enzymes. These crystallized forms simply can't be broken down in your small intestine, so they become unavailable carbohydrates that don't spike your blood sugar the way fresh starch does. The research supporting this is excellent. A study of people with type 1 diabetes found that rice cooled and reheated had significantly lower maximum blood glucose than freshly cooked rice. We're talking about the same rice, the same amount, the same person, but dramatically different glucose responses, simply because of temperature manipulation. Another study showed that resistant starch interventions reduced the incremental area under the glucose curve by 35% in pre-diabetic men. 35%. That's massive. The insulin response dropped by 37% with the same meal, resulting in a significantly improved metabolic outcome, all due to resistant starch formation from cooling. Let me tell you about someone who discovered this entirely by accident. His name is Marcus, and for about 20 years, he's been freezing fresh bread so that he wouldn't have to go to the bakery every other day. After taking the bread out of the freezer, he'd pop it into the toaster for a crispy crunch, rather than eating soft, clay-like bread. He did this for years, without thinking about it. Then one day, Marcus, who has type 2 diabetes, stumbled across information about resistant starch and retrogradation, and suddenly everything clicked. He'd been accidentally creating resistant starch in his bread for 2 decades. He tested his blood sugar after eating his frozen, then toasted, bread versus fresh bread, and the difference was staggering. The frozen bread barely moved his glucose. The fresh bread spiked it significantly. Marcus calls it providence, not coincidence, that he found this information after unknowingly practicing it for so long. And now, he intentionally uses this method with rice, potatoes, pasta, everything. He cooks in batches, cools overnight, and reheats portions as needed. His blood sugar control improved dramatically, and he gets to enjoy the foods he loves. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Add acid to your meals, vinegar or lemon juice. The acetic acid in our meal does multiple things. It slows the breakdown of starch into glucose by inhibiting enzymes like amylase. It improves insulin sensitivity in your muscles, allowing them to pull glucose from your bloodstream more effectively. It signals your liver to release less glucose after eating. Studies show that consuming just 1 tablespoon of acid with a meal can significantly alter your glucose curve, lowering postprandial spikes. Simple, cheap, shockingly effective. Let me tell you about Priya, a type 2 diabetic who uses this strategy religiously. Before every meal, she has a small salad dressed with olive oil and lemon juice. Or if she's eating something starchy, she adds a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to water and drinks it. She says this single habit has given her better glucose control than any medication adjustment she's made. Her postprandial readings remain well within target range, and she can now enjoy rice, a staple in her culture, without guilt or dangerous spikes. Now, if you're finding this information valuable, if you're realizing that you don't have to give up the foods you love, that there are simple, science-backed strategies to eat carbs safely, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button. We're creating content that gives you real, actionable medical information that can transform your health. No gimmicks, no fads, just solid science explained in ways you can actually use. Share this video with someone who's struggling with blood sugar management. Comment below with your own experiences, questions, and wins. We're building something powerful here, and we need you to be part of it. Now, let's keep going. Let me tell you about James. He's a type 2 diabetic who struggled for years with his after-meal glucose readings. He'd eat a balanced meal, take his medication, but still see dangerous spikes. Then he learned about food sequencing. Now he always starts with protein and non-starchy vegetables. He eats his rice or potatoes last, and sometimes he doesn't even finish them because he's already satisfied. His postprandial glucose dropped from routinely exceeding 200 milligrams per deciliter to staying under 140 milligrams per deciliter. His doctor was stunned by the improvement. James didn't change what he ate, only the order in which he ate it. That's how powerful this strategy is. Now let's talk about the fastest, most accessible glucose-lowering tool humans have ever discovered. It's free, takes 10 minutes, and literally anyone can do it. Walking and just walking. A 10 to 15 minute walk after meals can significantly reduce postprandial glucose. Why does this work so well? Because walking activates a deep muscle in your calf called the soleus. This muscle is like a glucose vacuum. It pulls sugar from your bloodstream and uses it for fuel without fatiguing the way other muscles do. The soleus can work continuously, constantly clearing glucose. Let me tell you about Robert. He's in his late 60s with type 2 diabetes, and he rides his bike for 2 to 2.5 hours, 5 days a week. He stays in zone 3 heart rate for at least 45 minutes on each ride. By every metric, Robert is doing everything right with exercise. But he wasn't seeing progress. His blood sugar wasn't coming down. And Robert knows exactly why. His problem is diet. He's been diabetic for a long time, and those years of elevated blood sugar have made his body more resistant to change. He's still consuming too many calories and too many carbs without the protective strategies we've discussed. But here's what I want Robert and others like him to know. Your efforts are not in vain. Every single ride improves your cardiovascular health, strengthens your heart, reduces inflammation, and improves insulin sensitivity. Even if the glucose numbers aren't moving yet, the benefits are happening. But you have to pair that exercise with proper nutrition. You have to implement these strategies. Cut out the added sugars. Use resistant starch. Eat carbs with protein and fat. Make your body move after meals. The exercise is essential, but it can't overcome a diet that's working against you. And speaking of diet, let's address a crucial point. Not all carbs are created equal. Processed carbs, white flour, instant oats, and pastries hit your bloodstream almost instantly. They're like throwing gasoline on a fire. Immediate flames, rapid burn, then crash. But whole, intact carbs, steel-cut oats, quinoa, barley, brown rice, whole grain bread, these digest slowly and provide stable energy. The less processed a carb is, the slower it hits your system. Carbs aren't the enemy. Speed is the enemy, and processing determines speed. Choose whole grains whenever possible. When you do eat refined carbs, use the strategies we've discussed. Cool them to create resistant starch. Pair them with protein and fat. Eat them at the end of your meal and walk afterwards. Finally, one of the most essential glucose hacks: don't eat late at night. Even if your meal is perfectly healthy and you've done everything right, your body simply cannot process glucose well in the evening. Your insulin sensitivity naturally drops as the day progresses. Your pancreas produces less insulin at night. That's why the same meal eaten at 6 p.m. versus 10 p.m. will cause vastly different glucose spikes. The later meal will raise your blood sugar higher and keep you elevated longer, so aim to finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed. Your glucose and your sleep will both benefit from it. Research shows that people who eat late consistently have an increased risk of developing diabetes complications. The time of eating matters almost as much as what you're eating. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's had type 2 diabetes for 15 years. She's tried every diet, every medication adjustment, every piece of advice her doctors gave her, but she couldn't achieve reasonable control until she learned these strategies. Now she cooks her rice in batches and refrigerates it. She always eats a salad with olive oil and lemon before her main meal. She walks for 25 minutes after dinner. She doesn't eat after 6 p.m., and her glucose control's the best it's been in a decade. Her most recent HbA1c was 6%. Her doctor asked what medication she'd changed. Sarah laughed and said she hadn't changed medicines at all. She'd changed how she ate. That's the power of understanding biology. If you want more information like this and are ready to take control of your blood sugar without giving up the foods that matter to you, leave a comment indicating which strategy you plan to try first. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, knowledge is power, but only if you apply it. You have everything you need right now to start eating carbs safely. You don't need expensive supplements or complicated meal plans, just small changes that make a massive impact and life-changing results. Stay healthy and take control.